Hey everybody! Bam!
Oh, shit.
Yo!
Hello.
What up?
Boy.
What
Yeah.
is up?
I'm gonna hit refresh on this page, see if it can go faster. There we go. Yeah.
The mayor's civic duty is here. I thought someone heard us say that. But I realized it's just Price.
It's just me.
How's everyone doing out there in Chatland? Welcome to the second Patreon Q&A live stream. We've got a bunch of Q's. We're here to give you some A's.
Yep.
But first, how are we sounding? How's everything doing? This is only the second time we've ever done this, so it's all.
It looks like it's doing a lot better than it did last time. Also.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fingers crossed, Rick.
Yeah, we'll see. It
Fingers
kind of broke
crossed.
down halfway through. And we'll see. It's really about Discord, but who knows?
Who knows? It sounds good. The mayor sounds like Jeff Goldblum doing a weird voice. What? What, Ben? Dude, when was the last time we used that track for anything?
I don't know, probably Stumbless
not-
or something.
Not recently enough.
Oh, did you know, Price, that for God of War, I've just been playing Disciplined Daddy on loop?
Nice. Boy! Disciplinary. Nice. That's good. That's good.
So, we're going to get into some Q's here, but first, just a bit of Patreon news, y'all. If y'all have not seen
Oh, shit.
our Patreon homepage, we just passed our second goal. $1,000
shit.
a month. That's amazing.
Oh, shit.
All thanks to you awesome people. So, that means that there's another pilot that we're going to start brainstorming and get to you fine folks soon. That also means that we're probably going to come up with another goal pretty soon as well. So, keep your eyes peeled for that.
It's gonna be $70 million, and it's gonna be the buy price a $69 million boat.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was Bad Rats.
Sure, $70 million for Bad Rats. Sure.
And the boat. I mean,
Game is
and the
so
boat.
bad.
And the boat.
And a boat.
No, we get the boat, we name it Bad
The
Rats.
boat's the reward. We name it Bad Rats. All aboard the Bad Rat.
All aboard.
We never played to you, baby.
Oh my god.
All right. So,
Should we A some Q's?
let's A some Q's. I'll pop us over here. Bam. And we're just going to do this in order. We got a bunch of Q's.
Let's do it.
Boom, boom, boom. As always, y'all come up with some pretty weird ones. So,
You bunch of goofs. Bunch of goofs out there.
Goofs and gaffs.
right from the very start, from our very own Ben What 52.
Wait, am I looking at the right one?
Make sure to load more comments.
Yeah,
You can
load
see
more
all the way
comments.
Top.
Oh,
Tippity
shoot.
top.
Oh, wow. Okay, there we go.
Let's make sure that
That
went
just opened
good.
up like 10 more comments.
Do you think we'll ever see the return of Stump Logs and podcasts?
I would love to do podcasts.
Yeah, it comes down to time, and like right now we just do, it's kind of like towards the bottom of the priorities list. I could see it happening, but
Well,
you know.
and I mean, also, honestly, views too. It just wasn't that popular.
Yeah.
It would get like half, maybe even of the views of other things that we would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that we all enjoyed doing it.
It's like a Stump deep cut. It's for like all you super fans out there. You like
Yeah.
it, but then like everybody else is like,
Eh.
give me some gang beasts, you know?
But we still do like the yearly wrap up kind of a thing. I'm sure that you're
Yeah.
seeing that.
We do, and like honestly, these days, Gang Beasts has practically become a podcast because we don't ever talk about the game anymore.
No.
Yeah,
No.
We just talk
basically.
about whatever.
I mean, at
Very
this
good.
point, it's become like a fever dream whenever you play that game. Like, we're just completely just spouting out whatever comes to mind, and half the time it's food. So, you're welcome. Yep. Also, Ash starts a lot of controversy.
He really does. I think Ash, at this point, Ash is just like, I'm going to name two foods that have nothing to do with each other, and I'm going to say they're the same thing because I know it's going to drive Price into a fury. And
You can't say they
that's
have
an episode.
nothing to do with each other.
Don't even.
A ravioli is
We're not
stuffed.
doing
A
this.
Pop-Tart is stuffed. That's
We're
similar.
not doing this!
Similar.
So yeah, I think like the podcast, you'll see it occasionally. The Stumped Log, again, I think you're going to see it occasionally whenever there's like some big thing that may change on the channel. Obviously, that'll be the Stumped Log. Honestly, it's just hard for. I don't know. I feel like the Stumped Log is weird. I don't want it to say it's going to be a regular thing because I don't think there's enough change that happens on a regular basis to necessitate it. And at the same time, it's also just a time thing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
As far as the podcast goes, now with things changing so much, like people migrating from YouTube to Twitch and live streaming becoming more and more a thing, I could see the podcast being done on streaming.
Yeah.
Eventually,
Yeah.
you know, we're talking about pilots and whatnot. I can see us maybe eventually evolving to the point where we can have a live podcast that we can do with our subscribers, and then perhaps post that to YouTube in some way.
If anything, this Q&A was sort of like a test run for the kind of layout that we'd like to see in a live stream podcast. Because I think it looks kind of cool. I don't know about you.
Yeah, you did a good job, Ash. Look at you.
Pretty nice.
Look at
Pretty
you.
nice. It's nice, simple, clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The background's got like a little bit of texture, but it's not like too overpowering. I dig it. I give it about 9 out of 10.
Wow. What would set it over the edge?
some pigs.
Get it back to
Luchadors.
10?
Luchadors.
Is that?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Don't you have a mask somewhere you could just make it go over?
It's at my brother's. I honestly, it's been at Fletch's for the longest time, and I think it's probably smart that I leave it there. Otherwise,
I just remember we took home some luchador masks, not real ones, like paper masks from your birthday party last year, maybe a year before that.
Two
What
years ago.
happened to those?
All right, we're moving on.
There was a box. There used to be a box full of luchador stuff that I had to get rid of because it was just.
Too
I
much.
wanted it all the time.
Too much. All right, Ben asked us a few questions. So next one, favorite video game soundtracks.
Katamari.
Katamari
Chrono Cross.
is a great answer. Chrono Cross is a good one. Rick?
Final
Mega Man
Fantasy
X.
Tactics?
Final Fantasy Tactics.
That's a good one.
I'm also going to say Katamari is probably one of my favorite ones, but I'll also say
If they Toe Jam and Earl.
you guys are listening to one of our favorite soundtracks as well right now.
It is a good one.
The Wand Wars
Yeah.
soundtrack.
One more.
It's an amazing
Yeah,
soundtrack.
also a special mention to Gungeon, obviously.
Ooh,
Oh, no, for
that,
sure.
those
Gungeon's
doze
amazing.
beats. Those
Those beats. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's, you know, Chrono Cross is legitimately, that was the first video game soundtrack that I, back in the day when that came out, that I, like, downloaded and would listen to, like, repeatedly. Like, I would be playing other video games, I would turn off the music in those games, and I would listen to Chrono Cross. And then Mega Man X just has, like, the music so perfectly fits what the game is, that like it's like that combination of like rock metal kind of thing with like digital sounds perfectly fits what Mega Man X is. So it's just like a good combination there.
I would also give special mention to the intro of Legend of Dragoon. That is like
It's
the
good.
one song I remember having to download every single time I got like a new iPod or something.
It's good.
When I was taking care of Kakujo's cat while he was out of town, they had this nighttime music, which is like this, like it's all video game music, but it's all like really calming music, Minecraft and stuff like that. Some Mario songs,
Just
lots
like
of
play it
Zelda.
throughout their home.
Just yeah, and I will
Okay.
say that I have to say Zelda is also probably high on that list of really nice soundtracks.
yeah.
But yeah,
There's so many good.
Can we call Kakujo's cat Cat Kujo?
Yes,
it's Mei Mei.
but no,
Oh,
it's
it's
Cat
Mei
Kujo.
Mujo.
Yeah.
Mei Mujo.
Nemujo.
Cat Kujo.
Cat Kujo.
Yeah, if y'all...
Cat Cujo though sounds like a cat that's gonna kill you because Cujo.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I don't make the rules, okay?
Cat Kujo. I like it. If y'all have not listened to the Katamari soundtrack, check out a track called Lonely Rolling Star. It's definitely my favorite song from that whole soundtrack. Another question from Ben. What games do you wish you could experience for the first time again?
Oh gosh.
Oh, that's a really good question, Ben. That is a really good question.
I probably a game that had a twist, and you want to redo that again.
Right. Like, off the top of my head, I'll probably say Metal Gear Solid 1. I think that one was interesting enough to me, and I got so encapsulated in it that I would love to feel that towards a game again, because I don't feel that often anymore.
I'd say like pretty much any of the Final Fantasies on the PlayStation, you know, so like Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy IX, maybe Final Fantasy VIII, Chrono Cross. I mean, I'm just trying to think because like it's not even just so much about twists, but just also just about what are games that I absolutely enjoyed. Oh, I said this before when this last week. I just played through Blood Dragon again, and I absolutely love Blood Dragon, but like knowing some of the stuff that's about to happen, like kind of takes away a little bit from how awesome they are. So that's a game. Yeah, just food delivery. That's how it goes. Postmates is coming like right in your door now.
It's like special alert. It's like a newscaster getting handed like a
It's just in.
Sandwich.
I thought it was a burrito. I got really excited for you, Rick.
That daily, baby. So you're not excited about the sandwich? You're like, it's
I mean, I'm
tempered.
go for a burrito actually.
I mean, it's probably getting old hearing me say Earthbound over and over and over again, but Earthbound. I love Earthbound. I love the humor in it. It was the first time that a video game was funny to me. Like video games, especially like an RPG, like they were always like really heavy and really serious, you know. It was delightful and supercharged.
Solid answers all around.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to a non-Ben question.
Oh my goodness.
This is a silly question.
Goodness.
I've always wondered, why do you guys say collab instead of collab? From Vani Sarek, am I saying that right? Z Captain 95.
I'll tell you right now. Stop. Collaborate and listen. I pronounce it kind of like co-lab. That's how I pronounce that word. So like that's why
it's regional dialect. That's what it is. It's really it's like if you grew up hearing people say this over and over again, you're gonna say it that way. And then it's like pecan. Of course, I'm saying it wrong to certain people.
I was thinking like biopic too. Like people will say biopic and biopic. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean like Ash, how do you say pecan?
Pecan.
Or do you say it pecan?
I do not say pecan.
I say
You're a
pecan.
monster. You also say mealy,
I do.
and everybody knows that it's pecan.
It's just how you grew up hearing it. So.
I also say
Unless
I say
you're talking about pecan sandies, and then it's pecan.
I say
Really? You could have two different pecans, but it's depending on if there was a sandy after it.
Pecan sandy sounds weird. It's pecan sandy. Because can and sand sound the same.
Anyway,
That's fair.
collab. I feel like that's not even one that people argue about that much. You know, it's not like it's not like
It's not
pecan
that
and
much
pecan.
cheese.
Yeah. Anyway, collab,
There you go.
collaborate.
Collab.
Oh, and because co suggests other people, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, you know, so and so and co. You know.
Yeah.
Like collaborate. When you say
and-
the word collaborate, you're just shortening it.
I feel like when words start with CO, usually that's where they break, like co-workers and stuff like that. You know, like you're used to breaking the word there rather than having it.
I've
straight.
never given it this much thought before.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna
I've
be
never
honest.
given it thought at all.
I've honestly also I feel like I've always only ever heard other people pronounce it collab. I've never heard a collab. Let's do a collab. I've always heard like hit us up with that collab. That's what I hear. You know.
Exactly.
I get you.
All right. Another question from Ben. Ben just, he kept on thinking of him, and then he came back.
There you go.
I know. He took a little break for one.
Exactly. Are there any apps, Flash games that you think aren't terrible? And I think yes.
Flash games. Let's see.
I'll answer right off the top of my head here.
What's that potato one you like?
So there are clicker ones that I could mention, but I'll say there's a bunch of paid ones that are genuinely great games. For example, 80 Days started off as a mobile game. 80 Days.
Oh yeah, it is great.
80 Days is a genuinely fantastic game. In fact, all of the games that are made by that developer, which I think is called Inkle, those are fantastic games. And then, there's games like Space Plan that's developed by Devolver. There's Reigns as well, developed by Devolver.
Yeah, I was gonna say Reigns. That's a great one. That's actually one I think I've actually completed.
Yeah.
Good
Like
answers.
from start to finish.
But Space
I'm a
Plan...
big fan. Go ahead.
Space Plan is a clicker game, and those are all the games that I mentioned are all paid games. if I'm being honest, free games, I can't recommend that much of them.
It's a bunch of
No.
noise.
I will say that Behemoth started its Flash games.
Mm.
And oh, bye, Kevin. Some of their games were pretty good back then. Like that was when Flash games were really, really like starting. So I think it was like Alien in
Hominid. Alien
Hominid.
Hominid.
There it was. That started as a Flash game. And that was pretty good fun.
Basically, like a lot of things that were on Newgrounds back in the day, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a time where Flash games were like just super cool, and Newgrounds was like seriously the bit like end of high school, beginning of college, which to a lot of you is like, oh my gosh, they're so old. Was when Newgrounds was kind of like in its prime, I would say.
It
And-
predated YouTube, you know. Like
Yeah,
It did.
it's old.
You remember Albino Black Sheep and the end of the world?
yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we always refer to that. And
But Price, what was the game that you just held up there?
I just held up Game Dev Story, which
Yeah.
is not necessarily a. I mean, it's an app. It's an app game, right? It's a mobile game. It does cost money, I think, but it's like a couple bucks if it costs anything. But it's kind of like that Game Dev Tycoon game that's on Steam, but an app version of it. And this was actually the one that came out first. Just a neat little one where like you kind of like you run like a little studio and you try and make video games that are gonna like get all the awards and make you a bunch of money, and then you like slowly grow your little company. It's like a little tycoon type game. It's fun. I like it. It's my mobile game
There
that I
you
play a lot. That and Chroma Squad.
All right.
Sorry, I'm
Next,
trying to fix my camera keeps doing like a white balance thing and it's bugging the crap out of me, so I'm like trying to find all my settings. Keep going.
next question by Andre Harris. I'm sure you have asked before, but have you ever thought of making your own game, and if so, what kind?
I think that we kind of got a question like this
Similar,
last time, and strangely enough, I think 3 of 4 of us said RPG.
yeah,
Yeah, I can't remember what I said, but I'll say that, like, as I think about, like, if I was, like, to just get into game development, like, the first game that I'd want to make as a simple game would probably be a clicker, because I play clickers, and I think that that's probably a good introduction to game development. And I think that I could make a silly one that's not as generic as 99% of them out there.
I made a side scroller for a video game development class.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Cool.
Yep. I made it on Game Maker. It was a side scroller. You had to pick a charity from a list, and I picked the Boy Scouts, and so it was a little Boy Scout collecting Boy Scout things.
Oh, that's
Aw,
cute.
cute.
I don't know how to code, and I probably will never make a game, but I would probably use art assets. So
Sure.
I spent a very long time where I was planning on being a game developer in some way. I have made several little like demos and stuff in Game Maker. One of the ones that I worked on for a good chunk of time, I had a friend of mine who we were both working together, slowly working on making. This was probably like 5 or 6 years ago, a little bit before Stumped, or around the same time as we started Stumped. And it was a side-scrolling roguelite. And the thing I was very proud of, because I never finished it, the thing I was very proud of was I came up with a system in Game Maker to actually procedurally generate levels.
oh, nice.
It was like a really odd thing to figure out how to code, but then once you figure out how to do it, it's like, oh my gosh, I understand how people make these like matrices.
see
of
the
numbers.
matrix.
Yeah, you just like once you learn how to code things, it suddenly all starts to make sense. And I was actually I was talking
Oh,
to
that's
one
just
of
a red
my
trace.
yeah, it's just a red trace.
Look again.
And at that time, I was also, in the beginnings of my grad school, and I was talking to one of my statistics instructors about it, because we were also learning how to code for statistics. And I told him that like I was coding games, and I was learning things about statistics from coding games, so that I was like figuring out ways to do all the stuff together. So it was like a really good marriage of knowledge there. So learn statistics; it helps.
Right on.
Anyway, side-scrolling roguelite platformer type game, Mega Man with randomness.
All right. Next question. What book
Yes.
or series do you think everyone should read? From Jessica Belton.
I feel like this is the same question that we had last time again too.
It's modified. It's modified.
Yeah, they asked us what our favorite book was. This is
okay.
I would say I read Serafina. That's most recently, and I really like that. I have the other two that are in the series, and I'm gonna be reading them. That's what I'm recommending now. Serafina's really good.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't heard about it or had a chance to read it, it's humans and dragons, and they were at war, but now there's like this peace between humans and dragons can take human form, and it's really, really interesting. And the characters are really great.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. You were telling us about it a couple of weeks ago, I think, at recording day. It sounds like a really interesting series.
Yeah.
For me, books that everyone should read.
Yeah.
If you're looking for like entertaining, like sci-fi fantasy type stuff, I really like the Her Majesty's Dragon Temeraire series, which is all about, it's like takes place in Napoleonic times, but it's like if dragons existed, so similar to what Rick just suggested. It's like if dragons existed, and they're kind of like a part of the Air Force of like the British Navy. Like they call it like an extension of the British Navy. And like everybody looks down on the people who ride on dragons, and they're kind of like seen as like these like brigands and stuff. But anyway, it's all about like Napoleonic wars and things with dragons. It's super interesting.
I'm going to modify my answer because I noticed that you say a book that you think everyone should read.
Yes.
I'm going to get a little serious here. The People's History of the United States. It's phenomenal, and it's written from the point of view of the United States who have been overlooked and overshadowed throughout the United States history. So it gives alternate accounts of like civil rights and Native American history and stuff like that. And I think that it's a very, very important book. And yes, especially if you're American, it discusses a lot of stuff that you won't be taught in school.
And before letting y'all have yours, because that was the route I was going next, was books that people should read for edifying themselves, is 1491. I've talked about this a lot before, but 1491 is a book about pre-Columbian, pre-colonization America, and it talks about North and South America and Central America, and just kind of like what culture and what from history we can figure out what everything looked like over here in America before colonization occurred, and kind of like how the ripple of colonization affected all of those cultures. And it's just one of those fascinating things. And like Rick said, it's something that you will not be taught in school, because anything having to do with America's history and interacting with Native Americans is just kind of glossed over for a lot of reasons that should probably be clear. Like it's like one of those things that people don't like to talk about, but you should know about it because it's important to recognize that kind of stuff. So for your own benefit, read one or both of those books that Rick and I suggested, so you have a more clear, larger view of America and the context of America.
Jazzy.
I have to say, like, I don't read a lot of nonfiction. The only nonfiction book I do enjoy, so I bought one called The Dissolving or Disappearing Spoon. That one's like the history of the period of elements, and they actually go through all the elements and actually say how it was like discovered, like the interesting stories around them, and how like these were kind of like coveted, and how they actually learned how many periodic elements are in the table, and how they actually built the table first because they knew there was going to be that many before they actually discovered the elements, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting book, but like I read a lot more fiction and fantasy. So out of all of them, I'd say a series that I would definitely recommend is The Hitchhiker's Guide. Those are probably... Douglas Adams is such a he's just a really good writer. It's very enjoyable. It's easy to read. And just Arthur Dent going through the universe and dealing with like things he doesn't understand. It's really... It's just his take is unique. Mm-hmm. And certain things that the universe finds as torturous doesn't affect Arthur Dent because he just doesn't understand it, which I think is hilarious. Like there is an actual little box out there in the middle of the universe that they send to condemn criminals, and the box actually forced you to see the entire universe in all of its entirety. So a lot of like aliens just kind of their heads explode. But Arthur Dent, he's just like, I don't understand this because I'm so new to it that it doesn't affect him whatsoever.
Doesn't have any impact. Nice.
Which it's a great series. I love it. Also, if you like Harry Potter or you want to get into Harry Potter, Harry Potter's just amazing.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun.
Yeah, they're fun books.
All right, so
Ash.
I'd say, yeah, like you guys read the question. I guess if Jessica, if you're just looking for a book recommendation or a series recommendation, I'd say I would recommend the Kingkiller Chronicle. I can't remember if that's what I talked about last month as well, but Kingkiller Chronicle. Yeah. First book is The Name of the Wind. Second book is Wise Man's Fear. The third book
is never getting released.
The third book's never going to get released. But it is a fantastic series, especially if you like Harry Potter. I feel that it is a more mature Harry Potter. I think it's
very mature.
It's in that same vein. A boy going to magic school and
boy.
Yeah.
Boy.
Isn't that a boy going to magic school?
What?
Because I've read like the first, I don't know, 60 pages, and there's no magic school yet. What the hell?
Well, it's all about him.
When does the magic school pop in?
It probably like halfway through that first book.
And then the school is kind of, but he does learn magic.
Yep.
It's less about the school, whereas the Harry Potter series is like very much about the school.
Yeah.
I'd say like the last half of the first book is all about the school. Anyway, a book that I think that everyone should read, as in like it's an important book. I'll say that I have not read that much nonfiction or stuff, but I'd say my answer to this would probably be something by Shakespeare. My personal favorite is Midsummer's Night Dream. Mostly, not that I think it's like important educationally, but I think that it is important for people to read old text and dialects like that, so that you have that skill in your own toolbox to be able to read and communicate in that way is in fact its own skill. So
it'll expand your vocabulary.
Exactly. All right, moving on. Ice Chang. What is the next food showdown between Ash and Rick with the meatball armistice in effect?
I feel like we're not having showdowns nearly as much nowadays as we are planning collaborations. You know, like we were talking about the dessert burrito.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many of you guys saw the tweet, but somebody made that a reality.
Yep.
And they actually used cotton candy as the tortilla, which blew my mind. So
I still have no understanding as to how that thing structurally holds up, by the way. I feel like the moisture from the ice cream should disintegrate that cotton candy. It blows my mind.
Yeah, it defies the laws of burrito physics.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else that me and Rick disagree on that level, as we did of the meatballs. Like, it has to be cooked this way, and I'm not really sure there's much.
Oh,
else.
I definitely disagree with the way that you prepare steak. I will.
So
because you sous vide it.
Like, I have a sous vide. I'm not like saying that like all steaks have to be sous vide anymore. You know, I don't think I ever did.
No, I mean, you know, not to butt in here, but a sous vide is totally an acceptable way to prepare a steak.
No, it is.
Yeah.
But like, I think that a steak grilled, you know, like you would on a normal pan, or if you put it over a grill or whatever, all steaks are delicious. Whereas like the meatball baked or fried thing, I have very different opinions on what's good.
You're very a purist on that one.
Exactly.
I just don't know why everybody wouldn't pan like sear a steak. Basically, it's the quickest, it's the easiest. It takes 5 minutes tops.
From my own perspective, it's like my own nervousness of if I have like a $20 steak or a $30 steak and I don't want to mess it up, I know that I can cook it perfectly with a sous vide no matter what I'm doing. Whereas if I'm cooking it over pan, I don't feel that comfortable with my own knowledge of, oh, use the knuckle or feel your thing to know when it's medium rare. It's like I don't feel that, like I'm going to overcook it or I'm going to undercook it dramatically or something, you know?
It's gotta feel like that.
Exactly, and like I don't feel like my own skill with pan cooking.
It's like you pay attention to this. Like if it's too tight and it gives too much, it's bad. And
Yeah.
if it's too loose, it's not good. So it's like there's just the right in the middle there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I turn to sous vide, especially if I'm cooking like a super duper good steak.
I mean, I think I'll put it this way, Rick. I totally I agree. I prefer a seared steak because you get that like you get the crust, which for me is like a huge part of it. You season a steak well, you get that nice sear on the outside, so it's crunchy, it's got all that flavor, and then it's super soft in the middle. That's a perfect steak. A sous vide, you don't get that because you're not crisping the outside. But if you do a combination sous vide with like a quick pan sear,
you're supposed
then
to.
it's incredible.
You're absolutely supposed to sear the crust at the end. The main difference between pan searing and sous vide is that with a pan sear, you're going to get a gradient. It's going to be like a seared crust and then a bit of gray, and then you're going to get pink in the middle. Whereas sous vide, it's going to be pink throughout the entire thing with just crust on the edge.
It's a scientific level of control. There's a great. We're just talking about steak now. There's a great we call it like a mini documentary on Netflix. It was like a small special on BBC or something like that. That's like science versus food or something like that. But it's like they got this like world-renowned chef and a scientist, a physicist, I think, a guy who works in material science, into a kitchen. And then basically like the material scientist was like, look, what you're doing is physics. And I think I can come up with better techniques to do these things by using scientific techniques and blah, blah, blah. So he did this thing where he sous vide the steak, then dropped it into liquid nitrogen to stop the cooking so that he could then sear it with some other special technique. So he was able to get the crust all around the steak rather than just on the top and the bottom. And that was like the one thing that the chef was like, you made a better steak than I did. And like he was not happy about that. Like he was like, how could you dare use this scientific technique to do this? But very interesting stuff. Anyway, go watch it.
I guess at the end of the day, my argument goes to time versus payoff for time invested. You know, I'm sure that the sous vide steak is fine. I'm sure that it's delicious, but it's the same way I feel about turkey. I don't appreciate turkey because it takes freaking 5 hours to cook it, and then by the time you actually eat it, you're like, yeah, that's okay. I don't think it's 5 hours.
Well, that's because like most people can't cook a turkey.
Yeah, we've had this turkey argument before.
Yeah.
The other argument I'll make to you, Rick, is that I think it's somewhat like a slow cooker. You can, in fact, set it and forget it. You can even like leave it going while you're at work or something, because it like a normal steak is supposed to be at that temperature for 2 hours, but you could leave it in there for 10 hours. It's not going to change. It's doneness. So, yeah,
it's crazy. That is a lot of time.
Anyway, let's move on. Dragert. Dragert asked us, what is one thing that you would love game developers to embrace that you don't believe that they have yet?
Here's something that I would like them to embrace that I think they've abandoned. This is how to play games. We talked about this several times, but like ever since Minecraft, where they were like, there's so much nuance and so many things to learn about this game, but they teach you zero. They maybe teach you like, okay, here's how you build a box. Okay, good luck figuring out everything else. And now it's expected of us to like go on wikis and stuff to figure out how to play games. So especially us as YouTubers, we're constantly getting comments that are like, you guys suck at this game. Why don't you like read about the game or watch videos to figure out how to play it? It's like, well, I shouldn't have to.
Well, it's like I don't have 15 hours to devote to every game.
Developers should have at least very basic tutorials that teach you the basics of the game. My most recent encounter with this was RimWorld. I'm playing RimWorld, and I love RimWorld, but there is so much involved in playing RimWorld, so much to learn, and there's like maybe a 5-minute tutorial at the beginning that teaches you the very, 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 very basics. And yeah, I was setting myself up for failure because so many people in the comments are like, just learn how to play the game, dummy. And I'm like, I'm trying to, but literally it doesn't teach you how to unless you have hours and hours into like reading about it and watching videos. So I really wish that developers would start teaching us how to play their games again. Just
in general, I'll agree with you on that like in general, the information that you need to play a game should be in the game.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of games that I feel like, so like I'd say Don't Starve is kind of in this space where, because I know that there could be somebody who's going to argue out there, well, you can figure everything out if you just experiment with stuff. But it's like, there's so much in the game, and the game is so punishing that if you fail at some of, or, you know, games that I love, Ark and Pixark, for example, these are games that you just have to do research to figure out. And sometimes it's okay. Like, sometimes you want to do that, but at the same time, like, to require you to do essentially homework in order to learn how to play a game, when we all know we've played games in the past that have like a little pop-up or a little something like, oh, you just did this thing, now you should try doing this thing. Like, it seems so simple that when that, not even that level is taken, when it's just 100%, you're thrown in a world, figure it out. I don't find that rewarding. I find it like...
Don't Starve literally tells you nothing. Zero.
Yeah.
You start in the game
Figure
and
it
you
out.
have no idea.
Like, I'd say that the thing that like Don't Starve does is that like you have that little bar on the side, and as you build new things, right, you have more stuff pop up in that bar, so you kind of can go like, okay, I need to build this thing because I haven't built this thing yet, right? So you could argue that the way to play that game is to experiment until you've seen everything, but still, it's very, very difficult to do that. So yeah, I'll agree. I think that that's probably a big one for me. Yeah.
I wish game developers would embrace more of a single story one-off instead of sequels.
Sure.
Which a lot of indie devs do, which I'm happy with because it feels like very satisfying to play a game from start to finish, have a nice single player experience, and it doesn't have to be online because everything apparently has to be online these days, which is very frustrating. But it's exciting because there are people that are like their games are almost AAA, but they're like, hey, we're still a smaller team. We're going to make a game that's just a one-off like story, and then we're gonna do something else afterwards. I think that there needs to be more of that because that actually has so much room for creativity. Whereas a sequel is just like, well, you're kind of stuck into that now. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say a game that's a good example of, I think, both of those things is Slime Rancher. Slime Rancher teaches you everything you need to know in the game. You can figure everything out in the game. And it's a single-player experience, focused on just a single-player experience, and they're not trying to... You know, the other thing that I would say is I would hope that this isn't asking them to embrace, this is asking them to leave behind is the massive focus on microtransactions that's gone into basically every AAA game. Because I think that most multiplayer experiences that are built around the concept of microtransactions are absolutely unfun. Like, I just have no interest in a game that's built around, like, you got an XP boost, or like, you know, the whole thing with like the Battlefront thing where it was like, oh, you could pay a bunch of money and basically have a huge advantage, like get to play as all these like super powerful characters and stuff. Like, why would anyone want to do that? Like, why would you want to jump into a game where someone's able to buy their way to the top and like, oh, cool, I will never be at that level because I literally cannot drop $100 on this game to get me ahead. You know?
What's also nice is also games that are like, we don't have any DLC. Like, you know, there's games that are like, oh, here's a DLC add-on to add more to the story. I want a game that is 100% there, not locked by anything, and it's contained. Once you're done with it, you're done with the game. Simple as that. Like, I don't want to have like a patch or anything like that, or any game that isn't like early alpha and it just keeps adding to it later on. Like, that would be nice if you could actually just have a fully released game from day one.
Sure.
Yeah, I remember when day one patch was like the first time day one patches were a thing, and they got shit because it's like, well, you're shipping in the game. That seems, you know, pretty scummy, and now it's just become standard practice. Now to the point where like we have Sea of Thieves who developers said like, no, we always anticipated releasing this game and then regularly with it, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
You keep cutting out a little bit. Like I think your gain is just too low.
Yeah, I just need to move my just the developers basically saying, well, it was always our like we always wanted to release a game and then release like regular updates for it and stuff, and I'm like, well, you just described an early access game,
right?
So you're asking us to embrace paying $60 for early access games, and it's setting a very dangerous precedent because, I mean, if they can get away with it, then other big developers can too.
So my thing is more for game publishers rather than developers, and what I'm about to say is totally unrealistic, and I get that, but I want publishers to show more love towards their back catalog of games to ensure that future generations can always play an old game. So I'm going to give you a terrible example, but it's a game that I love.
You just went Toe Jam and Earl 3.
Toe Jam and Earl 3 on the original Xbox.
I bought you that game.
So hold on, let me finish my thought. Toe Jam and Earl 3 on the original Xbox. There was never an emulator made for the original Xbox, so the only way to actually play that game is to own the OG Xbox. Once a console maker like Microsoft drops all support for a console, once they stop actually producing them, at that point, I would love it if publishers are like, okay, we're going to make sure that all of these games get released on Steam or something. Or, honestly, I would fucking love it if Microsoft would decide, okay, once we stop supporting a system like Xbox, we're going to give you guys, like, documentation on how to build your own emulator. Because I genuinely think that there is a lot of support for a publisher doing that. Even if it financially doesn't make sense for them, in the long run, I think it builds them a much larger base of people that love their IPs.
And I'll say, on building on that, I think that now that most games get released in a digital format, I think that games made within this era moving forward, they'll always be there.
Exactly.
Those will be preserved. There are websites that you can go to for like games that are like old. Like I when I came across this, I can't remember what the website is. I'll have to find it and link to it later. But it's like old like freeware games from like the 90s when you first got your very first PC. They were like these really low quality freeware games that like nobody's heard of because they were just shipped on like one version of an IBM computer and like people were hoping that, you know, it would spread. And people have archived these games being like, look, there might be someone out there who wants to play these games. You can go to this website, you can download it, and it's all for like these games that have been abandoned by their publishers or their companies or whatever like that. And so there will always be a place for the digital games. But you're right, Ash. It's like those games that are in that awkward zone of they don't have an emulator, but they weren't on a digital format that was usable on a digital format. So like the Xbox, there's a lot of games on the Xbox that maybe lost to time.
Yeah.
Like
actually, no, that is incorrect. Recently, Xbox is doing a Xbox One backwards compatibly, so they actually are putting a bunch of old Xbox games onto the Xbox One.
Yes, the Xbox. So hold on, the Xbox OG is getting that backwards compatibility thing for the Xbox One. However, they only work with publishers that are friendly with them. And Sega, and it was like a partnership between Sega and Microsoft to publish that game. Games like Panzer Dragoon, games like Jet Set Radio Future, those are never going to see the light of day. And those are games that everybody wants. But because
and I think that like that's the thing is that it's like it's not about like because the big popular games those will always get re-releases anyways,
right?
The games that were like big flagship games or that have some kind of name recognition, but like it's those little like kernels, those little games in the corner that like nobody played but like you kind of remember fondly,
right?
Those ones are the ones I always worry about being lost to time.
What I love about this new Xbox One compatibility is they have a lot of games, but included in that is Fusion Frenzy.
Yeah, Fusion Frenzy is one of those because it was published by Microsoft.
Gosh, I played that demo so many times.
there is one thing that is going to start to evolve with the online version of games. GTA 4, they took all the music from GTA 4. They don't have licenses for it anymore. So now that they're actually licensing things and they have terms attached to those licenses, if we had a physical copy, those songs would remain on there forever. But now the experience you're going to get from these online games is going to be different than what you got previously because things that they are licensing are no longer going to be available.
Think about this, though. Like, here's a great opportunity for a company like Spotify or someone like that to make a good move with these publishers or whatever and be like, look, how about you pay a license to us or like some like small fee comparatively to all the licenses for the music and be like, if you're in game and you have a Spotify account, you can play through the radio your Spotify and then set up a playlist that's basically all the songs that would have been in the game in the first place. They're offsetting the licensing to Spotify, who licenses everything. And then it can be a living thing. You can even adjust it if you wanted to. I remember that happening when Xbox first came out.
Right.
you could actually download CDs onto your Xbox and listen to them in certain games. And so I'm sure that the functionality is actually probably in there for some of those. Like for GTA 4, I could see that actually being in there.
I would love that because, especially for a game like Fallout, I hate there's like 10 songs in every single Fallout game. I don't know why they do this. Why it's just such a limited number of songs, and then you just hear them over and over again, and you want to go out of your mind.
Those are the ones they bought. Probably.
Far Cry 5, dude. It's all folk versions of songs. I have to turn off the radio immediately, like every time.
It
kills me.
All right. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Next
Really
question.
interesting stuff. That's a good question. Yeah.
Oh, so from Drager, is there anything from retro games that you wish they brought back?
I feel like it really tied in the last one. What you're just
It's
talking
all
about.
been already brought back, in my opinion. Like the stuff that I like from retro games has like come up in the indie resurgence with like the 16-bit styles and music, like, you know, experiences that are like side-scrolling platformers. There are 2D RPGs that are made in like RPG Maker, like To the Moon and stuff like that. So it's like all the stuff that I miss from retro games that I would be like, I want more of that, is pretty much back. Maybe
I agree.
with Yooka-Laylee and stuff like that, they also brought back the other thing that I would want, which is like 3D platformers.
Exactly.
And I feel like they like it's almost like there's this weird cycle in games now where like 15 to 20 years out, maybe 10 years out from a thing, it starts to be vogue again. Like low poly stuff is now a thing.
Yeah.
People making games to look like PS1
No,
games in
you
the
know what we
modern
need?
architecture? What?
You know what we need is a freaking Power Glove to come back. Let's do that.
Yeah, I would love a Power Glove for the Vive. Could you imagine?
I mean, I think
Just like
if for those of you that have not seen what the supposed new Steam controller, Vive controller looks like, it does have the individual fingers. So,
Right.
yeah, I think you're getting closer to that.
Did I ever tell you guys that we had a Power Glove?
No.
my
We had a
God.
Power Glove back in the day, and it was so funny because that is one of the most worthless pieces of trash in all of existence. And I would try so hard to to play games with that Power Glove. Right? I plug it into my NES and I would play like every game. And the thing is, like, A, it takes up one of your hands. And then B, it's got like this massive keyboard. Like they put every button that you would never, like no games used any of them. And so like I would sit there trying to play, I don't know, like Mario or something. I'd be like, I can't. I'm having to do all with one hand on my arm here.
Oh,
Most useless device. And yet, so cool. So cool.
such cute poppers.
Yeah, like Price said, I do think that a lot of the old retro stuff that I loved, I still see a resurgence of that to this day. Like, for example, Sonic Mania just came out. The new ToeJam and Earl is about to come out. Like, all the things that I love from my childhood, it's coming back. So, yeah.
I appreciate that, like the low poly talk and stuff. There was such an emphasis on graphics and like, oh, what kind of graphics is this new console able to render? I like that the emphasis isn't on the graphics nearly as much and it's more on the gameplay.
Well, and it's almost more like now that we've reached a point where, photorealism in games is kind of, it's not, we haven't quite fully achieved it, but we've gotten pretty dang close. Like games like God of War are pretty just gorgeous, right? Some of the stuff made by the Quantic Dream is very, near photorealistic, right? So now that we've kind of achieved that, it's not a race to the top. Instead, it's like for indie devs and people in the middle who can't afford the massive amounts of money and like the animators and the designers and modelers and all that stuff. It's like, instead, let's just make something that like looks cute or different or weird.
You know what I like from retro games that they're kind of bringing back in special editions is physical copies.
Yes.
I like the one of my favorite things was buying a game, pulling out the booklet, flipping through the booklet, looking at the art. That was always such a treat, and I wish that there was more availability for that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I heard the Isaac booklet is actually really cute. It's like actually in depth. They actually have drawings for all the monsters and stuff.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Here's one. Here's something that is like not in a lot of games anymore that I kind of miss. Is unlocks and multiple playthroughs and stuff. Like what I'm thinking of is like with like Tekken and Soul Calibur and games like that. Back in the day, it was you started with like a limited set of the characters, and you had to like beat the game with all the other characters to unlock all the endings and to unlock the other characters, and that's how you had replayability. And now with every one of these games, it's just buy it on DLC, buy an add-on pack that gives you these characters, right? Like even with like so, you know, my WWE 2K games that I play, right? Like 3 or 4 years ago, like 2K15, I want to say, it was like you unlocked the characters. Like you played through this one campaign mode, and you would unlock certain characters from different historical matches and stuff by playing through those matches. And then the new ones, it's just literally just like, here's a new download pack, pay $5 and you get, you know, Kurt Angle and Triple H or something like that. And it's like, by just turning that into ways to like, A, you're squeezing money out of a game, which I'm kind of against, but I get, it's like whatever. But B, it's just like, it takes away some of my drive to play the game. You know, like I liked unlocking things.
Cheat codes along that same
cheat codes,
cheat codes, because they took away cheat codes because now you got to buy it. Like, oh, you want to have these awesome things in game? Buy it, the DLC. Freaking cheat codes, man.
Yep. Yeah, enter passwords and stuff that were like...
I remember having sheets of passwords.
Mm-hmm.
You play a game with 50 levels in it, and you get a password for each level, so you write them all down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I used to know like by heart like all of the cheats for Turok Dinosaur Hunter, and also for the original, like those two.
Speaking of man. Mega Man, Price, you remember the codes that you used to have to enter into Mega Man before they had game saves?
Oh, the passwords. Passwords. Yeah. Those Mega Man 2, by the way, can I just point out, Mega Man 2 had the weirdest password system in the world. It was like Chinese checkers. It was like this board with like different little like grid things that you hit.
And then you put the little balls in the grid.
Yeah, it was so bizarre.
Yeah,
it was like they tried
like
to
you could just have like an actual code.
Yeah. So then to write them down though, you had to like draw a little grid, and you're like, wait, how did? I'll just start over.
All right. Let's move on. We're moving on to Anna's question.
See how Anna's question fits in this.
It's not going to, so I'm going to read it, and then we're going to take it piece by piece.
Also, Anna, why can't I use the Konami code anymore? Because Konami doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, you could probably go pull the lever.
Yeah.
Up, down, down.
All right, so Anna's question. Okay, so let's say that you were teleported back in time. Don't ask me how it happened. Wait, it was probably Ash. He found some sort of silly device while working on Stream Sound. And bam, you ended up in Pioneer Days, and the only way home is to travel the Oregon Trail, and then hopefully live until you make it back to current time. And that just straight up won't work, but I'll go with you. The first part of the question. What roles would you take on while traveling the trail? Like, who would be the doctor? Who would be the doctor if you got sick? Who's going to hunt and gather food? And who will ford the river?
I think
Price
Rick
would be doctor.
I'd probably gather food.
I think Rick would be the guy who's fording the river, maybe Hunter Man. I feel like Rick, you've got that kind of stuff on lockdown.
I could probably
Ash, what would you do?
I just sort of like oversee everything, make sure it's all everyone's doing their jobs appropriately.
Honestly, I would kind of
Ash is the woman wearing the bonnet, telling everybody what to do.
I would trust Ash to like navigate and to organize. Like honestly, to be like, here's how we, here's how much food we have. Here's how we make sure everybody's got enough food. Here's all this. Like I think I trust you with like the administrative stuff.
Ash decides when we stop, like how much back tack we're gonna buy and how much what's the hard bread that you eat.
We can blame Ash.
Yes. Right. Yes.
Okay.
Fearless leader.
So there's the rules. Question number 2 of this is, boom. How cute would my boys Rick and Price look in bonnets?
I mean, I'm already kind of wearing a bonnet right now.
That's not a real bonnet.
I think Rick would look the most adorable in a bonnet. I say this while Price is not listening right now.
I do declare.
You are giving me the papers, miss.
Honestly, if anybody's gonna look cute in the bonnet, it's gonna be Ash.
That's true. I mean, let's not lie around this. He's got an adorable face outlined by that bonnet.
question 3, which had to be tacked on later because she didn't even remember to put a question 3 in the main thing. Butts? Question mark?
Butts.
Which you already asked this last time, Anna. I distinctly remember a butts question mark last month. But
But
yes.
I mean, yeah, butts. Yeah.
But yes, butts.
You already know how I feel about butts, Anna.
We all.
Need that
Butts.
erotic
Butts.
fan fiction of Amir and Kratos.
Cuts, no cuts.
Question 4. Do you think you would all make it to Oregon? Who would someone perish along the way? That guy?
Let's be
From
real.
what? From what though? Snake bite?
I'm a frail.
Dysentery?
I'm a frail little boy. No, I mean just from general. All
General.
thing.
Yeah.
Just all
Died from general.
Yeah.
How
feel
far do you
like-
think you would make it? How far do you think you would make it?
Until we made it to like the Rockies.
Okay, all right.
I'm thinking. Yeah.
Like, for me, with Price, I think like he'd make it until the weather started getting really damp and then his knee would literally explode.
Yeah, basically. like no joke. Like it was in my head. I was like, it's the weather. It's like once we get to the point where it's gonna be like so painfully cold and just livable, and like you can't escape from the cold. Like it's like, oh, we're gonna spend 2 weeks in snow and ice. I'd be like, nope, I'm out. Later. Pass.
I think I have the will to survive. I'm also have a high tolerance for pain in certain situations, so I'd probably complain, but I'd probably make it.
I think the 3 of y'all make it. I think I'm gone.
I don't know. I don't think I make it. Yeah.
Oh,
you would
don't say
almost make it.
that.
Like, I think I
I
almost...
should get close.
Yeah.
Make it to like Salem.
If you guys didn't make it, would you be offended if I ate you?
No.
Nah, go for it, man.
No.
Go for it. Yeah.
And his next part of the question, would you take more people with you, form a wagon train?
Of course,
Yeah.
save
Yeah.
your numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Unless one of them is sneaky, whatever that guy's name with the knife. You know who I'm talking about, Anna.
What?
There's like a
Thanks.
knife wielding dude in that game, and I have no idea what his name
okay.
is.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Now we
Knifey Stan? Knifey Stan.
That's his name.
Yeah, you
That's
gotta-
his
Knifey
name.
Stanny.
you gotta have more people with you so that, like, if a bunch of, like, a wolf pack comes upon you, you can just, like,
Yeah.
chuck one of the people
Circle the
at 'em,
wagons.
And then...
And
Throw the
circle
children at them, yes. Yes.
It's messed up, man. We can always our wagon can always go a little bit faster than theirs.
Just we did that on purpose too. All right, number 6. Please take me with you. Of course, Anna.
That's not a question.
That's not a question, that's a statement.
Well, and then it says she
no,
wants
that
to
is-
know
that is-
the
that is it.
survival plan.
Yeah.
Overall, the survival plan is just slow and steady wins the race.
Don't die.
Yeah.
Toward the river.
Yeah.
Don't die. If you die, eat the dead person.
Yeah.
Get dysentery and die.
Don't be wasteful. Don't be wasteful.
Yeah.
And I have a question for you. What is it about the Oregon Trail specifically that you love so much? Get back
It's
to
that
me.
game. Just that it.
It's
just
the
that one
bonnets.
game. Oregon Trail 2. She's obsessed. The end.
All right.
Calling you out.
Also, Anna said the name was Nasty Jack.
Nasty
Nasty
Jack.
Jack.
See,
Nasty
I knew
Jack.
this guy. He's a guy.
Knifey
He's a
Jack.
knife.
I was close with Knifey Stan.
Yeah.
All right. Next question from our very own moderator, Tanya. What was the worst and or funniest YouTube comment you've gotten that you still remember? Not asking you to go dumpster diving or anything. What's your favorite gaming? Oh, these are 2 separate questions. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Why she keep talk is probably
Exactly.
the funniest.
That's-
Yes,
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
I should
yeah.
keep talk.
Yeah.
That's the very
Yeah,
first
that
one that
was-
popped into my head as well.
It's just like
We've had like so many dumpster fire comments, and we share them between them, but like we never really keep them.
Yeah.
But why she keep talk is the one that is just truly memorable, because the guy was so blatantly misogynist
Yep.
and just really like giving me shit for being like a woman playing games. She can't do this. And
Yep.
why she keep talk? She just don't stop talk. She needs to not be playing games.
Why'd she keep talking?
Every time I think she stopped talk, she keep talk. It's like, right. Well,
It's magical.
sharing.
It's a magical,
And then I
magical
think
comment.
I responded to him and I was like, hey, don't be a douche. Some like format that. And he's like, I never thought you would respond to me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
There was
This.
there was a recent one where somebody got bent out of shape because I wore a Bernie Sanders shirt. And
Yeah.
they were like,
I remember that.
we're resubbing, and Price and I were both like, bye. Like literally, bye.
It was. They said you guys should, because literally it was just you were. We didn't even talk politics, and every now and then we do. Like I'll throw a joke out there about Trump every now and then. But you were just wearing a Bernie shirt, and it was in one of our Twitch VODs, I think. And yeah, they said something like, "You guys should really stay away from politics." Unsubbed, and yeah, Rick and I just both commented back like, "Bye, not gonna miss you. Sorry. If you can't stand somebody wearing a T-shirt."
Especially to a race that happened 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Already settled and done. Yeah.
The next day on stream, I purposely wore a political shirt, by the way.
What about the one about the entirety of the mod team over policing your chat and that we're ruining your community?
Oh yeah, that happens quite frequently.
Yeah, we get a few of those. Eh.
Yeah, you guys are the
Yeah.
worst.
You didn't allow me to put a Pepe in there, and that means
Why
attacking my
you-
freedoms.
Why you keep mod? Am I right? Like just
Yeah.
The second part of
Why do you
Tanya's
keep
question. What was your favorite gaming/live stream moment?
I only remember it because I think I edited the Twitch highlight. Was we were playing Duck Game, and Ash caught on fire, and he somehow killed us all by accidentally his dead body just flinging around the entire screen.
yeah, that was a classic one.
Good.
Also, I mean, the Shifty Pig is probably the best. The
Shifty
one that
Pig?
took the bullet.
Shifty pick that saved the
In
universe.
Gungeon?
Yeah, that was good.
That was a good
That was
one.
real good.
Speaking of pigs, I think the Gordon Pig incident in Minecraft, classic. Anytime something happens and it's completely unscripted, but it seems scripted, it's just magic.
That's always the
getting
best.
in a bottle.
He did take the bullet, Ben.
It's hard to say favorite. Most memorable is still to me the end of Little Big Planet 3 when the game was so broken it was dying.
Yeah.
If like
My
my
sweariest moment in my entire life.
my favorite, like if I could just say the whole of the most recent Stumpmas, like that's probably something I
Yeah.
think back of fondly quite a lot. There was just so much cool stuff that happened that we did. It's hard for me to say one specific thing. I think karaoke probably stands out a little bit, but yeah.
Karaoke was great, yeah.
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 I'm trying to think. It's really hard to think of moments like that. Like, I almost want to say just like meeting people at PAX and stuff. I know it's
Sure,
not
yeah.
gaming or live stream, but like related to what we do. I think like that for me, like connecting with people in person through all of this, like all of the stuff that we've gotten to do because of what we do here is, I think, what I really appreciate. The people that we met, the friends that we've made. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when you think of how many videos we have, well over 3,000 at this point on YouTube. We stream like every day now, so like probably well over 500 streams at this point, if not way more than that. It's hard to remember back on every single incident, but yeah.
How many hours of content do you think we've produced? I'm sure we could look at it on YouTube and see how many videos we have, but like thousands, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, when you also account for Twitch as well, I'd figure we're probably getting close to 10,000 hours of content.
That makes us experts.
That's true. Thank you, Malcolm Gladwell.
Moving on to Cagley's questions. She's got a few for us. They're all very
Cagley,
good,
I
very
love
solid
these
questions. Let's
Cagley
go.
got the best questions right now.
Do you think farts are funny?
Of course.
Yes.
Absolutely. Obviously,
Although they're very stinky.
you need to pick your audience, but
Yes.
yes. I think
Pick your
everyone...
audience. You can't pick your farts.
There was Ash picked an audience the other day. I'll
Yes,
just
I
say
did.
that.
I'll say it. At the end...
And no one said anything. We're all like,
We were being polite. We weren't gonna call him out.
At the very, very end of the most recent VR, was it Puppet Fever stream?
Yes.
I let out a huge fart at the end of that.
What's so great about that is you were the one in the VR. We were all sitting behind the green screen, and
Yeah.
it just like it was
Permeated.
powerful.
it was powerful. And we were all like very quiet. And then the moment we stopped streaming, everybody's like, Price said it. He was like, who farted? And I was like, oh, thank God someone said it because I wasn't going to.
And then,
No,
but then
there
when I
was-
said it, my response was, I thought that was you. It smelled like an Ash fart. That's how you know we know each other.
Yeah.
I know
There was
the smells of the individual farts.
There was
That's
another
weird.
instance we were recording Ultimate Chicken Horse, and Rick had a terrible stomachache, and he immediately like darted out while we were recording.
Yep. Yep.
Even before you did, you also farted,
Oh yeah.
There's like a speaker on the way. Yeah.
and we were like, I think it was like on recording because we were waiting for you to come back. But we were all like,
It was very good. There's some episodes that I have to like remember. I need to edit something out of the middle of this, otherwise it's super
Please
embarrassing.
edit out my fart.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And then, follow-up question: which is more gross, burps or farts?
Which is more gross, burps or farts?
Farts.
Depends on. I mean, farts are probably grosser. I think.
Farts
I
because
just
they
feel
come
like-
out of your butt and they're like, it's like your poop's talking to you.
Well,
Well,
the
I
other
mean,
part
it's
is like I feel
also
like a fart
fecal
lingers
matter.
more. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
farts carry fecal matter, so I guess they're grosser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you're trapped on an elevator or something like that, the fart's gonna.
But
be more
also, a fart is funnier than a burp.
gross. Absolutely.
Definitely.
I don't find burps very funny. Like if someone's like, "Oh, I just drank something," I'm like, "Let's add a huge burp." I'm usually like, "Okay," but
Yeah.
if somebody rips a fart at the right time,
Yes.
I'm gonna giggle. I'm
Exactly.
gonna giggle. And if I get trapped in a room, and like if I smell someone's bad burp, I'll just kind of be like, "Ugh." But if I get trapped in a room with a fart, I'll usually be like, "Oh, you butthead! Somebody did this on purpose, right? Like this is war." It's like there's something whimsical and fun about a fart, rather than burps are just kind of.
Whimsical farts.
I will. There is a story, and it's about our friend Kakajo's daughter, Lily, and I love her so much. And this is the second time I've caught her farting, and every time she farts, it's the cutest thing in the world. She goes,
Oh,
So self-conscious.
she's just, and I start laughing, and then she's like, "Oh, it's okay, cool." So when I went back to give them the key this morning, she ripped one, and
did she?
yeah.
She's like, hey, what's up, Jazz?
well, she ripped
High
one,
five.
and then she did the same thing. She's just sitting on the floor. She's like, I don't remember if she's okay with it or not.
Well, it's like, did anyone hear it? And then when you laugh, like, all right, it was a funny one.
It's-
It's all good.
It's the cutest thing ever because she's 8 and
Yeah.
it's adorable.
My
I feel like this is an American thing. This is a people thing. All right.
Everyone farts. And also, I think it's a French
Are you telling me you don't fart, Papa Perfect? I don't believe you. Okay, because you probably have those popcorn farts, and we all know about those popcorn farts.
Okay. Have you ever burped, farted, and sneezed at the same time? I'll say
Yes, recently.
fart sneezes happen
Fart sneezes have
frequently.
That I've done plenty. I don't think I've ever sneezed and burped at the same time. I've
is it-
probably farted and burped at the same time.
Is it possible to burp and sneeze simultaneously? I'm actually thinking about it in my head. I'm not sure you can.
I'm sure you could.
Maybe
it
on
would
the
be a
release
very
of the
painful
sneeze.
experience. Yeah.
I know
I
that
feel like
was
you'd be forced to vomit.
You burp
Yeah.
through your nose as you sneeze. And that just sounds horrifying.
I know when I was sick, I was like, my nose was like really itchy and I sneezed, and the force of the sneeze because I was sick caused me to fart. But I
Yes.
think that's all
Yes.
one involuntary motion
Yeah.
where your body just crunches.
That
and-
was. You're holding back the farts. And then the sneeze is like the release valve. It's
Yeah.
like, nope, not today.
Speaking of being
Pressure
sick, you
cooking.
just
Talk about
pressure's
farts for so
cooking.
long.
you sucking down that tussin there, Ash?
I
saw you
am.
sipping on that cough syrup.
I am. It's the only way I'm getting through this. For those of you that don't know, I'm very sick right now. Are we only supposed to ask one question? Says Cagley. This is her fourth question
Yes. Yes.
now?
You can ask some easy one.
No.
No, you can only ask one, and that means the next 3 Q&As you have to sit out.
Ooh.
Dang, son. Next question. How dare you? No. What's the next one?
The next one is from Ixchel. Hold on. Let's see if I can copy it appropriate. There we go. Boom.
How dare! How dare!
Let's talk Uranium Chef. Being new to D&D games myself, I'm wondering how much of the storyline scenarios are laid out for Price ahead of time versus how much is purely the result of his own imagination and the fabulous answers from the rest of the crew. Loving it, by the way.
It's very, very free form. So the
Freeform?
first,
You're cutting out.
it's very free form.
Okay, just making sure.
You hear me? All right.
Yep.
So the first 6 or 7 episodes that are on YouTube are all from the pre-made game. So we played through the Uranium Chef actual like pre-made like scenario. So that was much more laid out. That was much more specifically prescribed. All the stuff that's happened recently, the stuff on the island and all that kind of stuff, that has all been pretty much like I'll come up with like a general idea. So usually what it is like, so for example, the most recent ones, I came up with Chris, the goldfish. I was like, I think that's going to be a funny character. I came up with the idea of shrinking y'all down and going onto the island. And the island being a snail. I was like, that was going to be an idea. And then with the island, I was like, okay, they're going to go to this island. There's going to be some like creatures there who need help in some way. And I'll figure that out next time. And then when you guys got there, I was just like, there's a drought, you know? Like, so oftentimes it's just like we sit there, we come up with stuff. And the other part is when you have a group like this and where it's really mostly focused just on the story, not about like the mechanics. There's no like leveling up. There's no like making sure that they get all their loot and all that kind of stuff. It's just about the funny story that we're building. I oftentimes will just take cues from you guys. So if you guys just start like going down a path where you're focused on one thing, that's where we're gonna go, and we're gonna figure it out from there. So it's very freeform, very freeform.
I feel like more traditional D&D games, they're a bit more structured.
Yes.
But I feel like there's a lot of lore and mechanics to the game that allows it to be structured. But like, I feel like for new people, like especially if you're trying to build out a story on D&D, like actually make a story and then try to loosely follow it so that you don't feel like you're going off the rails and having to like scramble. Like I think,
but also don't get too married to your story because inevitably the players are going to deviate. They're like there's this great little things that like it was a GIF and it was a GIF of that's how I pronounce it. There was a GIF of these chickens all like looking at and focused on like a little faucet just like on the side of a house, like a little faucet that was leaking. And then like the subtitle was like, when you give a little bit too much detail to something that doesn't matter in your D&D campaign and your players focus on it. It's like sometimes you'll be like, oh, and you walked into this building and there were these beams that looked like this and like, oh, and then on the table there was an ornate set of silverware, something like that. And then someone, for some reason, will be like, okay, that ornate silverware is really important. We got to focus on that. I got to steal that. I got to talk about that. I got to focus. And you're like, it's just silverware. It's just, and then like they go on it for so long that you're like, all right, it's the most magical silverware in the universe, and it's got a genie trapped inside or something. You come up with something. Gotta make it work.
There was this really great Reddit thread, and it was like to D&D
Ridiculous
DMs.
things.
Ridiculous things or things that just happen to you, and it's just stuff that like the players did to completely surprise their DM. And I think one of them is that the players decided just to settle down and open a tavern.
Yeah.
At that point, that was what they did. There was also
one where one of the teams, like they got so focused on like the political structure of their campaign that they completely abandoned like the slaying dragons and stuff like that. They took over like a little like they defeated some character and ended up inheriting like an estate. And then apparently like for months this campaign for that group just became like SimCity. Like they were just like building the town.
Shit.
You know?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right. So, on to our final questions. These are all from Merritt. The very first one, Merritt, I'm sorry, we're going to skip because we just answered it. Her first question was, if you could make a game, what kind of game would it be? Already answered in this same podcast. She also left a very nice comment saying she loves us. And then these last questions are just a this or that. So we're going to do this very quickly.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So, first one, matching or mismatching socks?
Matching.
both.
Depends.
Always matching.
Oh man, I got my awesome Star Wars socks. Every now and then I gotta mismatch them. Gotta have a Boba Fett and a Han Solo.
So,
That makes sense.
And your feet are fighting all day. That's weird.
Exactly.
SpongeBob or Patrick?
Patrick.
Patrick.
Patrick. Rick?
Patrick.
Oh, all right.
Patrick.
Yeah, no SpongeBob
Squidward.
love. Marvel or DC Comics?
Marvel. Come on, Marvel.
Marvel. Yeah.
Manga.
Someone's getting mad at you how you pronounce it.
How do you say Marvel?
Skydiving or bungee jumping?
Got it.
Neither.
Neither? Yeah.
If I had to, skydiving. Bungee just seems weird because once you go down, you go back up, and then you go back down again. I don't want to relive that.
Yeah.
And then you're just hanging there for a while while
Yeah.
they're like bringing you back up.
If I had to pick
I'd
one,
rather just go
skydiving.
down.
Yeah.
Skydiving. Yeah.
And I hate that feeling of your stomach, I feel like the snapback on a bungee is gonna give you that weird pit of the stomach feeling.
Yeah.
Versus skydiving, that's one direction. You land, you're done.
Exactly. Car or plane?
Car.
Car.
Plane.
Plane. See,
I hate cars.
For me, it maybe depends on, do I get to own my own private plane? Because I just don't like the experience of going through security and the weight and whatnot.
I like driving. I like road trips.
So,
I like road trips too.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be a passenger in a car. I don't like driving, so that's why I'm like, if I had to pick car or plane, I'm like, plane means I'm going somewhere far away. Like that's gonna be an event.
yeah.
Anyway,
Disney World or Universal?
Disney.
Disney.
I'm gonna say Disney only because I've never been to Universal.
I have not ever.
Really? Have who has
Yeah.
been to Universal?
I've been, but I haven't been since they added Harry Potter World, which I'd be interested to see.
I want to go
Same.
see Harry Potter World.
I have not been to
otherwise-
Universal since I was like 10 or so, and yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot of cooler stuff, but we've been to Disney World recently, and it's amazing. So,
Yeah.
Disneyland.
right.
Yes.
But I there was a time with my family. Gosh, this must have been like 15 years ago now. Where we went with like the whole family, and we did Disney World, and then we did Universal at the same time. Like we went to all of them, and I remember being underwhelmed by Universal at that time. And I was probably like 15 or so at the time, and it was one of those ones where it was like I loved Disney World. You know, I loved going to Epcot, and there was a lot of fun, cool stuff there. And then when we went to Universal, I remember just being like, Jurassic
Like-
Park ride's cool.
To me, the most memorable thing that I remember from Universal was the ET ride, where you're on the bike and you like
Sure,
actually like you go up and like over the moon.
Do you
and
get a
whatnot.
picture at the top?
I think you get your own picture like as you're cresting the moon and whatnot. Yeah.
Oh, I want to
I-
see Ash do that.
I feel like
So
the ride to
cute.
Universal would be more to your liking, Ash and Jazz, because I know that you guys aren't like roller coaster folks.
We're not roller
I
coaster
heard
people.
the Harry Potter ride is more of a roller coaster, but it's not like
There's a
a
couple of
really ridiculous one though.
Yeah.
There's one that's
Yeah.
I think is like a windy, crazy twist coaster.
No.
But then there's other ones that are not. Like there's more like experiences.
Right.
Yeah, I need the experience. I do not want to go upside down.
I like this response in our chat here. I've been to Canada's Wonderland, and Drager says Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons.
Ah, yeah.
Yes.
Canada's
Canada's Wonderland is just a big Tim Hortons.
Yep.
Hey man, I'm down.
All right, dogs or babies?
Baby
Like-
dogs.
Baby dogs.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Wow. That's a. I
Like-
like babies. All right, but dogs
Babies
are just pure.
babies are obviously necessary, but babies are also work. There's a lot of I mean
And babies grow up to be dumb humans, whereas baby dogs grow up to be adorable dogs. So, dogs.
obviously dogs and baby dogs are work too, but there's a lot more work involved with babies. So,
If it's someone else's baby, I'm just trying to think like if it's not my
It's
child.
situational. So if I had to choose between a baby and a dog just to hang out with an hour,
Yeah.
let's put it this way: how many ugly babies have you guys seen?
Dude, let's be real. Until like a couple of months in, every baby's ugly. I'm just gonna
you
put it
know
out there.
everybody's
They
seen
all
some
look
ugly
like
babies.
old- they all look
How
like
many
old-
ugly puppies have you seen?
Oh, not a single one. No, they're all gorgeous. They're all just
Thank
like
you.
the cutest little, wonderful.
except for
pure-
chihuahuas.
Even Chihuahua,
Chihuahuas.
even Chihuahua puppies are adorable because they're like this big. They have a giant head. They are.
My
they're
cats
so-
would kill them.
Sure, they
Yeah.
would.
That doesn't mean they're not cute.
Doesn't mean they're not cute.
I don't like chihuahuas.
That's. But we're talking about puppies. They're still cute.
I want to see a dachshund puppy. Do you think they're
I've
little
seen-
tiny?
yeah.
No, yeah, they're
husbands
super
with
tiny.
Sausages.
Go look
Yeah.
it up, Dick. You have the internet in front of you.
Yasmin, I'm going
What?
to. I'm gonna show you this. Brace yourself. All right.
For the Dorbs.
Brace yourself for yes. Okay. I'm just gonna link you to right here.
sausages.
All right. There. Here you go, chat. Just showing you here. Don't ask why I linked to dogbazaar.org. It was just the first place that came up. Look at that.
I don't like chihuahuas.
They're
I mean,
Look at that.
Look at that second little
that's
picture.
cute.
Look
The
at
second
that.
picture is cute, but then it turns into a rat.
But we were talking about puppies. We weren't talking
Yep.
about the full-size dogs.
Yeah, it's so cute.
Well, no,
Look at
the
that
first
thing.
one's cute, but then the other one's radish.
Is this a website that sells puppies for Indian rupees? Is that what I'm looking at right now?
I have no idea. That's what I was just wondering. I was like, what is happening here? It says Chihuahua puppies for adoption, but it's like,
I
yeah.
like that you're showing like the actual like website. That picture.
I think my mom's dog is cute.
Well, because you
Just got a
can't just
puppy.
click on images on Google anymore. Thanks, Google.
That's true. That's true.
Actually, I should say thanks,
Well,
Getty
it's-
Images.
Yeah, thanks internet. Like, but yeah, I mean to be fair, Getty was probably losing a lot of money to the right click.
Oh, Drager, I'm with you right there. I want an English bulldog so bad.
Thing about English bulldogs is okay. Well, we don't need to go into a whole. It's like I worry about their health.
We
I
are
always worry about
literally
dogs.
one question away from finishing this Q&A.
I always worry about like short-faced dogs and their health, like pugs.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends who have pugs, and like they only ever get pugs and stuff like that. I'm like, this is a breed that should not exist. They have so many issues just with like respiration that it cannot be happy to be alive.
French Bulldogs, the same thing. French
Yeah.
Bulldogs are adorable, but they have breathing issues. They have hip issues.
Yeah.
It's not very
Also,
good.
they actually can't give live births. They actually
Yeah.
have to have C-sections.
Yeah, exactly. Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Those ones, but there are like Americanized English bulldogs where they actually have a bit of a longer snout and they solve a lot of those medical problems that they have. And they
All right.
still
and
look.
it's not happy. And it's not happy.
I
in
know.
Last question. Harry Potter or the Hunger Games?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
I'll be
Hunger
real.
Games was.
I've
Rick?
seen all of the Harry Potter movies. I have not read all the books. However, I have read all of the Hunger Game books.
Yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't necessarily mean I like the Hunger Games more.
Right.
So I feel like, can I say I like Harry Potter more having not read all of the books? Sure.
yes.
Rick, I feel like it's 3 versus 7, so I can understand it's easier to read 3 Hunger Game books, especially when we try to do Hunger Games as like a book club thing. I think that's how it
Yeah.
started.
Yeah. Well, that I definitely like the world of Harry Potter more than Hunger Games. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, Harry Potter.
Yeah, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Next level.
I just don't like PETA's name. He's a freaking bread baker, and his
What
name
about-
is PETA.
What about
There's
the,
so many reasons not to like it other than PETA.
What about the Hunger Potter games?
Is that a thing?
Hunger Games.
Isn't
it
that just the
could be.
Triwizard Tournament?
It could be if we take all of the wizards and then we put them into the Hunger Games arena and have
Oh,
them
it's like a
fight
battle
to be
royale?
the last wizard alive.
What if we play Hunger Games in Minecraft, but only wearing Harry Potter skins?
Okay, there you go.
Only wearing Harry Potter's skin.
Ew.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how they're going to revive the series? Have a battle royale? with
I'll
Harry
tell you
Potter?
right now, that's not how they're going to revive Harry Potter. That's not. the
I'm
way
a
to do
wizard,
it.
Harry.
So
I'm a
am
Harry
I.
wizard.
Wizard PUBG.
Oh man.
That's it. That's all the
That'd be fun.
questions.
A Wizards Battle Royale game would be awesome. Could you imagine dropping in and then like you have to find spell books, but then instead of having like a machine gun or like an ump or whatever, you have like I can shoot fireballs, I can drop ice shards.
Like,
I would be
Bryce, you already get salty enough when like you find a pistol and the other person finds like an AK. Yeah. Can you imagine the level of salt that you'd have? Like, oh, cool, I can like freeze someone. Oh, cool, I can throw bombs. You know?
Look, people love my salt. Okay, so the angrier I get, the better for everyone, basically. Except
So
my heart.
I'm trying to think of the developer to do it. Okay, so the developer that made Mirage. You're probably not doing anything right now. Make that into a battle royale game.
Wow.
Where are my shades? Where are my shades? I gotta throw them.
Wow!
Ash!
I apologize.
Jeez,
That was
man.
pretty rude. I apologize.
That was rude. Throw it, Rick. Deal with it. There it is.
All right. So
Even better.
that's all the questions. Everyone, thank you guys so much that that asked us questions. Reminder to the people that are in the 25+ tier, you guys can ask us video questions if you so choose. No pressure.
Yeah, that's right. I know Zeppy asked us a very hilarious one. He dressed up as a pirate. It was amazing.
That's right. I'll show off for those of you also in the 25 tier that have been there for 3 months. This is the shirt that's coming to you. Oh, this direction. This is the shirt that's coming to you soon.
It's a good shirt.
Yeah, it's a good shirt. You guys will get a little Google form to fill out pretty soon, and then we'll get like your sizes and your color preference and stuff like that, and then it'll be shipped to you. So be psyched for that. Boom. With that, I think that's where we're going to end it. Thank you guys so much for your continued support on Patreon. Again, if you guys have any suggestions for like what you'd like to see us do and like other things that you'd like to see happen during these Q&As or just like happen on Patreon in general, please let us know.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said at the very top, we just passed our $1,000 tier as well, so be sure to keep an eye out for a new goal that we're going to try to put up soon. But big thank you to everyone that helped us reach that goal. That's amazing.
Definitely. I said 70,000, $69,000 boat, and Bad Rats.
So, 69
I said
million.
7 million.
Oh, you said million?
Yeah,
70 million is the next goal, so I can buy a $69 million boat.
that's right.
I thought you said 69,000. I was like, that's going to be an okay boat.
No.
69 million.
That's going to be a fancy boat.
I mean, we're basically unearthing the Titanic at that point. It shall rise again.
But yeah, with that,
I'll name it Bad Rats.
have a fantastic rest of your Sundays, y'all. Be sure to go tune into that Westworld or something if you're into that. That's what we're going to do. And yeah, be sure to tune in again in about a month. We'll post when the next date is, as we're getting close to like the final week of the month. That's when we usually try to do these things. And have a fantastic rest of your Sunday, y'all. With that, I've been Ash, Rick Price, and Jasmine. I didn't point them in the right directions.
It's fine. It's
You
fine.
did a
Yeah.
terrible job, Ash.
We'll catch y'all next time,
Rick.
everybody.
Price. Jasmine?
Bye. Bye.
Bye.